Thank you all. My name is Tom Sparazzo, and I have the pleasure of introducing our speaker for this afternoon. I wanted to start off first, though, by a few thank yous. If anyone was here last night, by the way, this is going to sound awful familiar. But, of course, thanks everyone for being here. Particular thanks goes to the Charlotte Diocese and Maggie Nadal for their support of this vigil event, to Father Rue for making the cathedral available, and to Father Miller, who's hosting Msgr. Reilly. Thanks to the team who is coordinating this event: Gretchen Fills, Mary Worthington, Angela Williams, Bryce Griffin, Andrea Hines, Veronica Cortez, and Francesca Sparazzo. And everyone who's generously donated food and flowers. Thanks to our videographer and photographer, Anthony. Maybe we should ask him to come up and say it. No. And please continue your prayers for this cause, because we are planning to start a chapter of Monsignor's Helpers of God's Precious Infants here in Charlotte. Now for our speaker, Monsignor Philip J. Reilly, a native of Brooklyn, New York, has devoted most of his 50-year-long priestly ministry to the pro-life cause. Starting as early as the late 60s, he was involved in lobbying efforts in New York State to prevent the legalization of abortion. He fought the legalization of abortion in New York before the 1973 Roe v. Wade Supreme Court decision, helped organize the first National March for Life in Washington in 1974, and served as a witness to uphold the Hyde Amendment, banning federal funding of abortion in most circumstances. For a number of years, starting in 1975, Monsignor conducted monthly all-night prayer vigils for life. In 1978, he took part in the original 100-mile walk for life through the desert in Death Valley. From May 1988 to September 1989, he participated in the National Rescue Movement 20 times in 4 different states, being arrested more than once. In 1989, Monsignor Reilly founded the Helpers of God's Precious Infants to focus on prayer efforts and sidewalk counseling outside of abortion clinics. The Helpers approach is now being used in at least 40 states, and more than 100 bishops and 5 cardinals have participated. By the grace of God, the Helpers apostolate has now spread not only throughout the United States and parts of Canada and Western and Eastern Europe, but as far away as Australia, New Zealand, and parts of Africa. He continues to serve as the executive director of the Helpers and travels internationally to train others how to hold peaceful, loving prayer vigils and offer constructive assistance to those in crisis, both before and after abortion. In 2010, Monsignor Reilly was presented with 2 prestigious pro-life awards: the People of Life Award from the U.S. Conference of Catholic Bishops Committee on Pro-Life Activities in recognition of his lifetime commitment to the pro-life movement, and Human Life International's Cardinal Van Galen Award, which is given to Catholic prelates and leaders who have been a voice of conscience in society. Monsignor Reilly holds degrees in philosophy and theology, a master's in the classics, and an honorary doctor of science. He has served the Diocese of Brooklyn, New York as parish priest, seminary professor, academic dean and rector, I think you told me basketball coach, and currently serves as spiritual chaplain to the Sisters Adorers of the Precious Blood at Precious Blood Monastery, which for all you Brooklynites is located near the Borough Park neighborhood of Brooklyn. We're thrilled and blessed to have him visit our diocese to inspire and teach us. Please extend a warm welcome to Monsignor Philip J. Reilly.
You're back for more. I was outside Wichita, Kansas. It was Dr. Tiller. This was years ago. Okay, years ago. And the fella came out and they tried to intimidate you. Okay. I was outside the abortion mill in Wichita, Kansas. Dr. Tiller, George Tiller, and they usually try to intimidate pro-lifers by coming at you with cameras. You see? They put cameras up in your face. See, this is what they do. So the fella comes up to me. He didn't know who he was dealing with. He puts the camera in my face. I'm supposed to leave. And he's leaving. I call him back. I said, come here. I said, listen, I'll tell you, I'll do you a favor. He looks at me and said, if you want, I said, I'll sign that picture, it'll be worth more. He ran inside. I'm just going to take your picture now. If you sign, it'll be worth more for me. Oh, that's like that. Yes, here we go. I'm going to give this to the government, you know. Right. This crowd here. Okay. That's okay. What you do, you close the camera down. There we go. And there we are. The last but not least. It says the battery's low. I'm sorry. Let's try once more. That's it. I'll quit with my head. Okay. Okay. In this workshop today, I'm going to try to do a couple of things. I'm going to, when you go for a large prayer vigil, that's what we did this morning. We do that every month in our diocese. And then it's being done in other areas. It was done in Brooklyn, so it'll be done in New York, it's done in Nassau, it's done in all the areas. So we started it many years ago, but now it's spread all through the country and around the world. But that's our calling card. See, when we come for life, it's for life until you close. That's what it comes. And so, well, what do you do then after a large prayer vigil? Now, you could do a large prayer vigil once a month. You could do it maybe 4 times a year. Whatever works for you, whatever's good, right? But in between that time, Barrett, you know the fellow, he started 40 days for life, okay? Actually, years ago, he and his wife came to the monastery of Precious Blood, and we trained them, okay? And I went down to College Station and started to help us there many years ago, and we trained them. We did the first prayer vigil to Planned Parenthood, and they were doing the helpers approach for about 4 years, and after the 4th year, he did this 40 days at Planned Parenthood, and they decided that maybe if everybody did this, the whole thing would fold, you know? And so that's how it came about, see? But the 40 days is very, very good, but I want you ultimately to do the 365. Because 40 days is nice. You go out in the spring, and you go out in the fall. But how about the winter and the summer? Those days are, they still kill babies. And so what you want to do is, 40 days for life, it's good, it introduces a lot of people, okay? But we have to take the next step. And it's interesting, 40 days for life came out of the next step, rather than being the step towards it, see? So what we do is this. After we do the large prayer vigil, you want to have an ongoing prayerful presence at the site. Now, who is the most important people at the site? You say the counselors. Cyber counselors. They're not. Sinners. No, not the sinners, the prayers. The sinners, the prayers are sinners, but the most important people at the site are the people praying. Okay? So you say, what did we do today? Well, you only prayed. Oh, I guess that's not that important. No, that is the most important part. Okay? If you remove my prayers from me, I lose power. It's like, you know, they cut my hair. These days, that doesn't help. I know, it's funny. I used to say, your freedom of motion ends where my nose begins. But not since cancer. I use a different example these days. But you are limited by truth, this freedom thing. But the prayer are so important. Why is this prayer so important? Because you don't stop a mother from having an abortion. I don't either. It's God does it. But it's the grace of God. It's the grace of God that does it, changes. Until the heart is changed. See, even in Operation Rescue. In Operation Rescue, part of the problem with that was, we did rescue 10 years before rescue. 10 years before. When Randy Terry was a young fellow, about 28 years old, in the middle of the 80s, and he asked Bishop Vaughan and myself if we would be the first ones arrested. The first large private rescue in New York City, May 2nd, 1988. 502 people were arrested. I was number one with Bishop Vaughan, okay? And Mark Bavaro. You know Mark Bavaro? Used to be the tight end for the New York Giants, the football team, you see? Phil Sims, Mark Bavaro, okay, those fellas. And Mark, a very fine pro-lifer, and he was arrested too. But when the police came, they gladly arrested the bishop and the Monsignor, but Mark Bavaro that year was the Super Bowl MVP, you know? The Giants had won the Super Bowl, and he's there. And they wouldn't arrest Mark. Unbelievable, it was unfair. You know, Mark said it was unfair too. Why can't I be arrested? So he said, what do I have to do to get arrested? And the police officer said, you have to give each of us your autograph. He said, okay, I'll do that. So they took out the things and he signed each one of their pads, their autograph, and then they carried it away with us. He was so grateful. But the problem with rescue is, see, I didn't start with rescue. Rescue is basically 88. But although we did a rescue 10 years before Mom, 10 yeast before that. It was on the feast of the Epiphany, January 6th, in 1978. We did a rescue at the clinic started by Dr. Bernard Nathanson. 10 years before. And this is 20 years now after it happened. And I said to Randy Terry, look, you're 20 years too late. 20 years too late. He said, well, if we act like they're murdering children, then people will believe it, the police will come and take the abortionist away. And I said, Randy, not so today. Maybe 20 years ago, but not today. They're going to come and they're going to take Bishop Warren and myself away. I had no illusions on this. They're not going to take the abortionist away. And the reason, of course, is that we did it 10 years earlier. Okay? And even then, they didn't want to arrest us, but they had to. And they didn't want the case to be tried in the courts. See, the first rescue was 7 men and women, brilliant young people, that wanted to go to the trial. They wanted to plead the case. Right? And we had the law of necessity, which is basically rescue works off, that they're not breaking the law. Because if you come across a house and there's children inside and it's burning, you can break down the doors, go inside, take them out, and that's not trespassing. Out of necessity, you have to go in and do that. So that's the fact. So our original case was in 1978, that if you can prove to us children are not dying inside, you keep us in jail. But if you can't prove there's children dying inside, we're not trespassing. We're the best of citizens. Right? That's meant the philosophy behind rescue. Right? But the problem with rescue was, so we did that 10 years earlier. The problem with rescue is your purpose determines your means. And the purpose of rescue was to stress on saving the babies. And we're going to do it. And you almost are slipping into a civil war. See, we're going to stop it. Right? And it's the last step. When you have a civil war, we had a civil war in this country. We're still picking up the pieces. When you have a civil war, everything goes down. You're really dividing. It's the last possible thing you want in a country is a civil war. It gets awful. So what happened? They jumped over First Amendment rights. Jumped over First Amendment rights. So the purpose is it determines your instrument, what you do. So if your purpose is to save babies, then that means we're going to block the doors. We're going to do everything to stop the babies dying. But if your purpose is to save souls, it becomes different. Your instrument is different. And if you even block the doors, That doesn't necessarily mean you're going to save the baby. You delay the killing of the child. You don't stop anything until there's a conversion of heart. Right? That's a fact. And only God does that. Only God converts the hearts. So you can't do that. But God allows us, through our prayers and sacrifice and penance, to unleash the graces from God to bring about a conversion of heart. So it means you have to trust when you go there. You're kneeling on the ground, you're praying there. What's happening? Let God take care of it. In other words, we simply say, because you can't shout, you can't block, you can't stop an abortion. It only takes place when there's a conversion of heart. There's conversion of heart. Now, we can obtain from God the graces for that conversion, but we can't be an obstacle for the people seeing us. Like today, you did what I consider the best way to do it. You're praying, you're kneeling, you're peaceful, and if there was absolute quiet out there, and that presence was there when the parents were going in, it's incredibly effective. See, the contrast is the conflict. There was a conflict there, a contrast there. Right? But in spite of that, we did not participate. We just continued to pray. We continued to sing. We continued to be a presence of Jesus at Calvary. I keep stressing to you, this is the modern day Golgotha. It's the modern day Calvary. And you have to learn how to be a Calvary. There are many people there, curiosity seekers. Many people there, bystanders. Many people there mocking Jesus. Come down from the cross, we'll believe in you. Right? Many people were there in anger at him. Right? Anger at him. And there were a few there that were praying with him, suffering with him, compassion for him, you see. And he's going. So the first thing I'm saying is this: think of yourself in terms of this is where innocent blood is being shed today. It is the modern day Golgotha, Calvary, and God wants us there. So if we're not there, let me give an example. Suppose I come into this room and I said to you that this is not the place to say there's a ship sinking, but in Brooklyn I could say that. Okay? We have rivers and oceans and whatnot. But suppose I said to you the ship is sinking. You said, is that true? I said, yes, it's true. And there are people in the water, they're drowning. Right? They need our help. Will you come and help me? Are you sure the ship is sinking? I said, yes, it is. It's going down. Okay, we're going to form a committee. You're going to form a committee? They're drowning today. What's this committee for? Well, we think we have to form a committee to build better ships that they don't sink. We're going to save lives. Is that right? Yes, but they're drowning today. I know, but it's very important that we have long-range thinking. We have to pass laws that will make sure there's no further dying and killing. You see? We're going to pass laws against ships sinking, babies dying. You see? I said, you're kidding me. You're not coming down with me to the ocean to pull these people out? I said, well, goodbye, I'm going. I'm going to try to get as many as I can. If no one goes down to the ocean to save the people who are dying, eventually no one will believe the ship sunk. And no one will take serious committees in government that want laws to be passed to restrict the killing of the unborn children. But if people are at the site pulling the people out of the water and saying, how did this happen? It can't happen again. Then you'll have ships built that will not sink. So you give credibility to any politician in Congress who stands up and says, we have to restrict abortions. But if across this country there is no one at the site where the babies are dying, where the people are drowning, no law will be passed. As a matter of fact, you know that every poll is showing that the majority of people now in America are pro-life. That's because of you. It's not because the media has turned pro-life. It's not because academia is pro-life. It's not because the politicians are pro-life. It's because all across America, they can't get away. They can't escape pro-lifers. And you're at the spot this morning where it is their weakness. It's their Achilles heel. Remember Achilles? In mythology, his mother took her little boy, okay, and she held him in the river Styx, and the water washed over his little body. He became invulnerable, and he thought nothing could stop him. But he forgot that his mother held him by his little heel, and she forgot to change heels. So the Achilles heel is your weak spot. You don't know it, but your enemy will find out. You really want to know your faults, ask your enemy. Don't ask your friends. Your friends will never tell you, they come up to you and say, "Hey, fatso." Your friends will say, they'll never tell you that, like you're gaining too much weight. But your enemy's always looking for your weakness. They'll tell you right away, you see, if you're gaining weight, whatever it may be. And so, Achilles didn't know he had this weakness. In mythology, Paris couldn't shoot an arrow straight to save his life, but he was going to kill Achilles. So he takes his bow and arrow, and he shoots to hit the heart, and he missed, he hit him in the heel. But he bled to death, because that was his weak spot. You see? He didn't know it happened. I say to you, the Achilles heel of the pro-abortion movement is where you are this morning. But it's important that you be there the right way. Okay? Otherwise, you're wasting your time. You're wasting your time. So the Achilles heel is the building where the people are going in, and it's the consequence of all these laws that are passed, where two people are walking in, both perfectly healthy. Both perfectly healthy. And one's going to come out dead and the other wounded. It's indefensible. Even the people that are there, even escorts, even the people who are for it, notice they will not be there when the mothers come back out. They're there to rush them in, but they're not there when they're coming out weeping. They don't want to see them. They have nothing to say. They know that they'll know that they were lied to. They know they were lied to. But the real tragedy is so many pro-lifers are not there when the mothers come back out. Because we're saving babies. See, that's the rescue mentality. We're saving babies, we're blocking the doors, we're delaying the things. See, I can say this because I've done everything. You can't say I'm afraid of being arrested, brother. In 1973, I withheld taxes. We are the ones who started the Hyde Amendment. We across the country. And Henry Hyde, actually, he introduced an amendment to an appropriations bill about 1975, 76, called the Hyde Amendment. Money should not be used. But actually, what people don't know, 4 hours after the amendment, it was history. They put an injunction on it. It was useless. I don't know if you know that. But there was, when I withheld my taxes in 73 to pay for abortions, a lawyer like a Thomas More, Larry Washburn said he would defend me. And so in when the Hyde Amendment was passed, that said federal monies would not be used for abortions, where they were now at that time paying about 450,000 abortions a year. 4 hours later, an injunction was put on it. And Larry Washburn, who you do not know, everybody knows Henry Hyde, a great man. But Larry Washburn, it was tried in a federal court in Brooklyn. The first one on the stand was me. And my tax forms went to the Supreme Court on the Hyde Amendment. And Larry Washburn was the man who for 2 years, he was a Wall Street lawyer. He gave up his job, he lost his home, he lost everything. For 2 years pro bono, he argued the case that the Hyde Amendment was not a necessary medical procedure, and therefore it was not necessary or that the state or the government should pay for it. It should be optional. And in 1980, Supreme Court decision 5-4 was in our favor. Otherwise, they would have had me out of business already. 5-4. But it was Larry Washburn. You don't know his name, I tell you this afternoon. That's the little hero behind the whole thing. He lost his home, he lost his job, and he did for 2 years, and he won. He lost everything, but he won the decision. Okay? And stopped. But as you know now, it's right back in funding the abortions because it's in the Obamacare, Medicare. And he said, what about the Hyde Amendment? So lost in the shuffle, isn't it? Lost in the shuffle. Right? So what it comes down to is this, is that in order for, so I withheld taxes we did a rescue 10 years before rescue. And when it happened, I knew it wasn't going to last because the focus was save babies. Okay? And I'm saying to you, no. Save souls, change hearts. And it's like delaying an abortion is stopping it. It's stopping it, see? So in the middle of '79, I spoke to John Andrews and Andy Terrence. So I said, look, I'm not opposed, but I didn't start with rescue. I'm not ending with rescue. Right? I've been in this since 57. And it would be 67. So we decided that some God inspired us that we start to help us, okay, God's precious infants and the Feast of Our Lady of the Rosary. And when I first went out there, it felt like a fool. I was in front of the Blessed Sacrament. I'll tell you this true story. I was in front of the Blessed Sacrament. I said to God, I give up. This is 22 years, okay? And the culture death keeps going worse and worse. And so I said to God, look, I can't do it. And God said to me, you're a stubborn Irishman. It took you 22 years to learn you can't do it. But I can, you see? I said, okay, what do you want me to do? I said, would you give me an army? He said, I'll give you an army. So what he gave me as the army we started with was 3 grandmothers, 1 grandfather, and 1 working young woman. I said to God, that's the army to come from the culture of death? And God said, hey, Monsignor, there you go again. I give you any more than that, and you'll think you're doing it, not me. You take your army and go. So I did. And it ended up, we went to the largest abortion mill in New York at that time. They were doing 20,000 abortions a year at this place, up to the 7th month. And I had my army, 3 grandmothers, 1 grandfather, and this working girl. And we stood there praying the rosary. We started the Feast of Our Lady of the Rosary, October 7, 1989. And I was standing there and saying, gee, is this it? And that day, one woman did come out, and she said she's going to keep the baby. How could you help us? We didn't know. You see, there wasn't that many life centers. Life centers, you see, there used to be like 2,000 killing centers and maybe 400 life centers. Now there's like 4,000 life centers and about 700 killing centers. It's the reverse. This is 20 years later. At the time, we didn't know. And so it ended up that I got a new bishop, Bishop Daly. Bishop Daly was the first bishop to lead prayer vigils in the world. And he was sent. And I was the rector of the seminary at the time, and he decided to come to see the students, the seminarians, and he offered this first Mass with the chalice my mom and dad gave to me. That was a very dangerous thing, because I know my mom and dad. So they were in heaven at this point. And the bishop offered the Mass, and then I was down in the library after with some cookies and coffee and so forth, and I figured the bishop's going to come over and ask me about the seminarians, who's going on, what's happening. See, which I figured. But during the Mass, a funny thing happened. See, my mother was very close to Our Blessed Lady, like that. We grew up with the Rosary, family Rosary, from the time I remembered as a little child. Anybody who came to court one of the Reilly girls, he had to get on his knees and say the Rosary. And it didn't end with the Rosary. My mother had like 22 litanies memorized. And the poor guy, he's wondering. See, it was a weeding process. My sister's only got the best. and so what would happen is that with the Rosary, we grew up with it. And so when the bishop said the Mass, I could see my mother in heaven going over to Mary and saying to Mary, Mary, would you speak to your son to tell the bishop to help my son? Okay? That was happening. He offered the Mass. His first public Mass was with the chalice my mom and dad gave to me. Okay? That's right. And he came back down, and he came over to me, and I thought he was going to ask me about the seminarians, who was going on, who's what. He came to me and he said, He said, Monsignor, he said, I understand you pray outside of abortion clinics. I thought to myself, well, I've been rector long enough. And I said, yes, Bishop, I do. He said, would you mind if I came and prayed with you? First day, you see? I knew there was something to reckon with here, okay? And I said, yes, I would. No, I didn't say that. I said, Bishop, if you come, may I tell the world? He said, do what you want. Okay? So what I did was I went to the local parish, and I said to the pastor, I said, could we have a Mass for Life here? Well, I said, the bishop would like to say it. Oh, yes, you can have a Mass for Life. And what we had done at this point, we incorporated the helpers, which I'm going to give you the corporation papers and the bylaws. And we incorporate the helpers as a non-membership organization. Very important. In other words, the helpers is a juridical person. And as a juridical person, we can take out a parade permit and require the police to protect us and to work with us. But we are a non-membership corporation. There are no members. Everybody that comes to a helpers vigil is a volunteer, including the bishop. No one can be sued except the corporation. And the corporation has no memberships. Yes. So what happened was, I had been involved in rescue, sort of in the papers, and they knew it. And when I went to the police to accompany us, right, in this thing, and they said, wait a second, Monsignor, you're going to block the doors? I said, no, I'm a tough confessor. No, we're not. But because we take out the parade permit, okay, we are able to have the police and meet us at the doors of the church. They close down the streets, they bring us to the site, and they bring us back again to the church. Fact, okay? And we do that all over the world, We just had one at St. Patrick's Cathedral in New York City with Cardinal Dolan, okay, on January 22nd. And the police met us at the doors of the church, brought us to the abortion mill, and bring us back. All the time we do this. And we do it to every country. Riga Mafia, Germany, Austria, Australia, everywhere, right? And the police love it. Tell you God's truth, they love it because we do what we say. We're peaceful, we're prayerful, and it's something for them that they're not put in a situation where they feel that they're involved in killing babies or anything else or protecting that. They feel they're doing their job, and they are. And most officers are police officers because they want to save life. So this is consistent with they're at peace with it, okay? And so we have an impeccable record, okay, in New York. But it's all over the world. So what happened was, it came time for the vigil, and suddenly more than 1,000 people showed up for the first Mass. More than 1,000 people. And so the bishop was met at the doors by the police. We went through the streets. All the media was there. All the media, every TV station, everything was there. And they're saying, this is something different, this is something new. They're not blocking the doors. What they're doing is technically correct. They can do this, see? And suddenly outside of the abortion bill was the bishop, the media, a lot more than 1,000 people in prayer. And then it hit me. Oh God, you are giving me an army. You are giving me an army, you see? And then it was only the beginning. Bishop Convendia started doing the Bronx, Bishop Arias in New Jersey, and started sweeping the country and around the world. I've never asked to go anywhere, but when you ask me to come, watch out. Okay, that's it. And usually when I come, people are happy to see me come, and by the time I'm leaving, they're happy to see me go because they're all exhausted. This is the reality of it. But so what happened is that the helpers then began to spread across the country and around the world. But that's only the first step of what you did today. You took part in the prayer vigil, okay? It's an important part. We put prayer vigil many times as we pray. We will go from the church to the abortion mill, and it gives witness to the general community that there is babies dying, mothers are being exploited, there is a killing center in your area. Okay? Rather than just Where the prayer vigil is for more than just the mothers and the children. It's for society. It's to witness to life, to everybody. And everybody is being told there's going to be a prayer vigil. Come, come, come. See? And it's much easier to get people to come to a church directly than to ask them to come directly to an abortion mill. And if you say, the program is this, we're going to start with the Mass, expose the letter sack, we're going to go pray in procession, come back, and to the church. And people feel, well, I'm going to get back home. It says here, I get back home. See, I go back to the church. You feel more secure, more safe. They'll come. And once they do come, then their feet are wet and they're not afraid to go directly to the abortion mill to pray. Okay? That's important. But the first time to ask people to go to the abortion mill, it's not going to happen. It'll be the exception. But if they get used to the prayer vigils, and they're going and they pray and they say, this is what happens, see? And well, I could do that. But when you come now to pray at the site itself. I'm wired up here. Now, suppose there is not a vigil, say, in New York City this morning. Are all the mills empty? No. There are now people praying outside of every large abortion mill in New York City. And they come there directly, and they come there to pray. Now, when you pray, see, if you protest, if you have signs, if you have pickets and so forth, people say, there's people picketing, protesting, demonstrating. But if you have people praying, people think of God. And that's the difference. You're going to make present not yourself, but God. And the infants are precious because they belong to God. See, the word infant, as you know, it comes from a Latin word for fare fatus, means to speak. If you put a prefix in, the present participle is fans fatus, speaking. If you put a prefix in front of the root word, it either intensifies it, changes its meaning, or it negates it. In this case here, in negates it. Infans means not able to speak. So if you go into the army and they tell you shut your mouth and just take orders, you are now in the infantry. That's fact. Right? You're not allowed to speak. You just take orders, the infantry. The unborn children are called infants because they're not able to speak yet. They need your voice. That's what you're there. And those infants are precious. Why? Because they belong to God. And you are called to help God's precious infants. That's what it's about. And their mothers. And that's what the help us is about. So when you go there, as we did this morning, to help God's precious infants and their mothers, you have to go there as with God. As Calvary. I keep telling you that. Jesus went to Calvary out of love for the people who were going to kill him. Your first purpose of going there is, I mentioned yesterday at the Mass and so forth, that the children are not part of the culture of death. They are not. Get that into your heads. They are not. They are receiving the effects of the culture of death, but they're not part of the culture of death. And you want to change the culture of death. So your reason for going there this morning is for the conversion of hearts of the people doing this to the babies. See, if the babies die, they never did a wrong thing in their life. They go directly to God. But the people doing this to the babies, they are the ones who need our presence, our prayers, our sacrifices. You are there to save souls. To save souls is to change the culture of death to a culture of life. And if you're not doing that, you're not touching anything. Okay? Now, if you change the mother's hearts before the abortion, that's pleasing to God. And the child is spared. But I said to you last night, and I repeat it again today, most mothers will not be changed on the way in. They're so brainwashed and convinced that abortion brings back yesterday. That's the demonic lie. Have an abortion, everything be, you know your life again, everything be wonderful. And so they believe that. And when you're saying to them, they're coming there with problems that are real, and they want to believe the lie. They want to believe if I have this abortion, everything will be okay again. My life. And I explain it. It's like the centurion. See, the two thieves cursed Jesus. One at the end was converted. That's the mother who stops, takes the help. She's converted, the child lives. But most of the people coming are the centurion. It's not until Jesus died and he puts the lance into the side and the curtain splits in the temple and the heavens go dark and the thunder cracks through the heavens that he says, my God, this was the Son of God. And I say to you, I know it. In the recovery room, the first reaction is of the mothers, my womb is empty, oh thanks be to God, to get on my life again. And then 20 minutes later, they're like the centurion. Oh my God, this was the Son of God. What have we done? What have I done? And that's when they need you. That's when they need you. But if you're there simply to save babies, your long sin's gone, you have no sympathy, no mercy, no nothing. And Jesus wants the abortionists. He wants the women. He loves them. Okay? He never stopped loving them. And I told you last night, when the women come out to me and they say, Father, after what I just did, could God ever love me again? Wrong question. Wrong question. The question is because, Mother, God is not changeable. God is always the same. God is love. God died, made us out of love. He died for us when we were sinners. And he never stops loving you, Mother. That question is simple. You don't have to figure out how do I convince God to love me like another human being. God is love. The question God has for you is, Mom, will you love God again? Will you love God again? And they have to find this love of God made present through you, who call yourselves pro-life. So when the mother comes back out, this unconditional, everlasting love of God, she must experience it in you who call yourself pro-life. That's what it means to be a Christian. That's what it means to be there. So, but if you say, we're there to save babies, all the babies are dying, let's go home. Sometimes I think there are people saying, don't kill the baby, blood is on you. You killed them all, the hell with you. We're going home. That's not Jesus. Sorry. The tough part is to love them all the way through. And when they come back out, they have to be treated with the same reverence and respect as when they come back out. No change. You are to make present to them the unconditional, merciful love of God. And that's the commandment God gave to us, did he not? He said the thing that will set off a Christian from the rest of the world is you will love your enemies. You'll make present this incredible, everlasting love of God to others. You forgive and you have mercy. Right? So when they come back out, if you turn around the heart of a woman after an abortion, that's 100% of the time pleasing to God. He loves her. He died for her. He wants a conversion. And 50% of the time, since there's a 50% repeat rate in every major city in the United States of abortions, without any fanfare, you save the next child 50% of the time. Fact. And so, but if you're not there, you realize, what is this? It's incomplete. That's part of the problem with rescue. I say that people can't say you're afraid to rescue, afraid to go to jail. I've been there. I've been sued. I've been everything. Please, knock it off. Okay? What you're doing now is the best possible thing. I wouldn't be doing it otherwise. I didn't think so. The results have been incredible. Absolutely incredible. Okay? So, but you have to be there like Christ. You've got to be there in humility, in prayer, and trusting. You don't save babies. You don't change hearts. God does that. What do you think you are? Okay? But he will accept our prayerful requests, our presence, our offerings, you see? And so what you do is, these mothers need you, not just when you do a prayer vigil, they need us all the time. Whenever these places are open, not just in the spring and in the fall, but in the summer and the winter, they need God's people present. And what we do is we have what we call here the Helpers of God's Precious Infants prayer book. So this morning, this prayer book now is in I don't know how many languages. Okay? It's in Romanian. It's in Albanian. It's in Chinese. Okay? It's in Italian. It's in German. It's being used all over the world. Okay? All over the world. And so people go directly to the site. And what they do is this. What I do is I turn people in. Maybe make a circle. Or a square, parallelogram. If you're really into geometry, you can use a trapezoid. I don't care. But what we do is we want people, and you're not praying to be seen. You're not praying at people. You're not even praying to be heard. You're really praying to God to get the graces, to help this mother, to have the courage. Because it's not easy. It's difficult enough to raise a child. Mom and dad are there, and you have normal income. But imagine if you're on your own and you don't even know how to pay the rent, where the next meal is coming, and you're going to keep the baby. This requires courage, it requires faith. They go from a moment of weakness to practicing heroic virtue. Fact. These single moms in these circumstances, and sometimes they're being beat. The people driving them to have the abortion bill, the boyfriend, the parents. The worst possible scenario, as you know, is the mother brings the daughter. No one's going to ruin my daughter's life. I say, yes, like you are today, mother. Like you are today. They're the most difficult ones, of course. The most difficult ones. So what happens is these young women, to keep the child, they may have to be thrown out of the house. The fellow may beat them. There's 1,000 things. It's not simple. It's not easy, okay? Our structure is so rotten right now in terms of family life is so weak and so lacking of God and prayer that these young girls become pregnant and come into these clinics. They have real major problems, or they wouldn't be coming there, okay? And to keep the child is not easy. So don't say, keep your child. Like, okay, we go home now. Do you know how difficult it is? That's what happens, you see? Yeah. And it's not, my friends, wait a second. When you tell them to keep the child, you have to understand, you're asking them to practice, in many cases, heroic virtue. And so it seems like I can't, the only thing I can do is what I can do. I can't keep the child. There's no woman coming to an abortion who wants to kill her child. No one. They're coming there because they have problems that are real. They don't see any other answer. And you're out there self-righteous. The blood is on you. Don't do this. You see, sorry. It's not the disposition of heart that God wants from us. But what are you going to do to help her? Well, now we do so many life centers, marvelous things. But even beyond that, it's still very difficult. You only can do so much. They got to go back into circumstances. So often, it's hell. So they really do require support and prayer. You have to understand that. Now, when they come, if you're protesting, picketing, screaming, walking around with signs, they can use all of that against you. Inside. And they do. Remember Dr. Carol Everett, she used to run an abortion mill. And I asked Carol, what type of presence outside the abortion clinic, in your opinion, is the best? She said, no question, Father, what you do. What you do. She said, one person in prayer drives us nuts. Any other presence out there, shouting, screaming, yelling, picking, we can use it against you inside. And we do. We say, don't let them tell you what to do. But how do we tell a person, say, don't let them pray for you? Don't let those people stand out there in prayer. Now, when they come, if they see you praying, not demonstrating, not picketing, it makes all the difference, because when you see people praying, you think of God. And it's God's precious infants. See, one of the reasons you can't win this battle in the courts, in academia, not even the churches, is because the victim is not there, and God who owns the victim is not there. But when you go and you're present outside these abortion clinics, you are making visible the victim. And when you are in prayer, you see, what happens is this, that you are making present God. See, if I see people praying, they're praying. I think of God. I saw you on your knees out there. I saw you praying. I thought of God. I didn't think of picketing protesters. The difference, you see? And so when you bring God into the picture, and so when people come, then they are realizing you're not there praying to be seen. You're not praying at people. You are there to really pray to God, to get the graces, the conversion of heart. So I turn people in. I remember I guess it was for me, the Catholic University of America or Steubenville Franciscan University. I had about 36 or 40 young college students at the monastery. We do retreats for them all the time, pro-life retreats. We bring them out to the sidewalk. And I had 6 groups of 6 coming down from 4th Avenue to 3rd Avenue. And they all were doing their own thing. I turned them all in, using the prayer books and so forth. And they began to do their own little things, see? Each one wasn't even aware of anything, but they were praying almost charismatically, with hallelujahs and so forth. So they had to walk by all of these groups on the way down to the opening of God shouting at them, you see, all the way down. It makes it so much easier for the counselor, right? Because they see the prayers and they see God, and it becomes, what am I doing? What am I doing? So if you do all of that, you become weak. Now we have this helpless prayer book, which actually, if you were to say it from the beginning to the end, it'd take you 3 hours. I never ask people, whenever I do like a vigil this morning, I'm not going to have a 3 hours time praying, 3 hours praying outside. You don't do that if you ask people to come and participate in a group type thing, because they can't leave. And maybe they finish it. It's like finishing a marathon. I finished it, but the very thought of doing it again, forget it, you see? But you say, it's over? Yeah, I could do that again, no problem. See? So I always ask people, it's a controlled situation, sure. When they're coming on their own, I say 15 minutes. Give me 15 minutes. And I know when they know they're free, they could leave after 15 minutes, they're going to be there for 3 hours. It's psychological, You're not locked in. It's true. Would you give me 15 minutes? That's all I ask for. 15 minutes. And you can't get rid of them. You can't get rid of them once they go. Is it over, Father? Yeah, we got to leave. Oh, brother. See? It's like people, they're afraid to go to a wake. Yeah, in a sense, but when they're there, you can't get them, can't close the casket. You can't get rid of them. You can't. You see, they're hanging on. That's the way it is. And you go to Calvary's awake. Once you get there, you don't want to leave. Can you imagine John and Mary when Jesus died leaving Calvary? That was very, very difficult. What more difficult than going was leaving. Because John, when he was leaving, he said to Mary, "Jesus, it's over." And Mary had a look at John. It has only begun. It is only begun. He shall rise from the dead. Okay, that's a fact. So what they do is, these prayer books are geared towards group prayer, and it's 3 hours, and when people come, you're not having a coffee party. When people come, everybody deserves the right to see God. So if you're praying, and you say, well, you take a break now. You take a break, and you start talking, turn into a coffee clutch. Now, everybody that comes is equally important. And what that means is that if I come early and you're praying sincerely, I think of God and I see, oh my God, they're praying. Now, you're taking a break, and I'm coming later, another person. I just see people talking and joking and so forth. No. Everyone is equal importance. So if you want to take a break, as long as you have 6 people praying, okay? You want to take a break, fine. Let 2 people go get a cup of coffee, go for a break, come back, let the others go, but always maintain a prayerful presence at the site, because everybody's equally important when they come. See? Now, this type of prayer book is important because when the person arrives, you say to them, we're at page 6, take it. And just goes, it lends towards good prayer. Each one takes their turn, each one sees prays together. And when they're leaving, you take the book back. Keep the books at the site. If you give the books out to people coming, you're out of books in no time. They like them, but they don't come back all consistently. So you keep the prayer books at the site. Have a person in charge of the prayer books. When they come, you give them the prayer books. We're at page 7. When they leave, you take it back. Very important, okay? So what you then have is, and you maintain the prayer through the time. So you've got to pray for an hour, 2 hours, 3, what it may be. So you're going back to the site. And you don't have to only go there on a Saturday when people are with bullhorns and so forth. You can go there, they can babies all during the week. So 3 or 4 you can come together and say, let's go spend an hour at the abortion mill, and we'll go there and we'll pray. We have our books. Because the killing goes on all week long, it goes on throughout the whole year, not just on Saturday mornings. I have news for you. Now if you go back during the week, you may say, I go every day. crazy. No, not crazy. They do every day, see, that's one thing. But we have people outside the large abortion mills every day in the city. Not just on Saturdays, not just once a week, every day. And it's turnarounds every day. Every day. So when you go, we have the prayer books in English and in Spanish and other languages. And what we do, we can supply you with the prayer books. We'll send you 30 prayer books. So that you have people go into the site, and when they come, they receive the prayer books, and they pray. Now there are people who cannot go to the site. They have to go to work, take care of the children, shut-ins. Oh, I love shut-ins. I go to shut-ins wherever I go, and contemplative sisters. I went to Dachau. Have you heard Dachau? It's in Germany, outside of Munich. I went to Dachau, and they have this museum there, Never Again, the whole thing. People come from all over the world, never again, never again. And I sought out the Mother Superior. There's a convent there, the Precious Blood Convent it's called, and it's the Carmelite sisters who are praying all the time at the site, but never again, never again. And I said to the sister, actually Mother Superior was Hungarian, and I was trying to translate by way of German my English. This was an interesting conversation, but I said, sister, it's again and again and again. The killing centers are all over the world, not far from where anyone lives. They don't have to go to Dachau or Auschwitz anymore. That's child's play. We've had 55 million in America died so far. Much more than that, of course. Much more than that. So I said, sister, would you pray that people's eyes would be open? That they go to the killing centers near where they live. Near where they live. I'll just tell you this experience. People, when they find out I come from New York, around the world, they ask, where was I at 9/11? 9/11, the Twin Towers came down. Well, actually, to tell you the truth, on 9/10, 11 o'clock at night, I was at the Twin Towers. And there was a doctor with me from Romania who had spent a whole month with an engineer and another doctor learning to bring the helpers to Romania. Okay, we trained them. And she was going back on 9/11 to Romania. So at 9/10, she wanted to see one time more the great accomplishment of man. These two incredible. We were up in the observatory, we went through the whole thing. I have the last pictures of it. Because one of the doctor's husbands was an engineer, and he took all the pictures, and the theater, they have Manhattan Theater, where they had a special helicopter ride that goes through. I have it all on tape. Like the final day inside. So at 11 o'clock at night, she wants to see this one last time, the World Trade Center. And the next day, she was leaving that evening. The next day, she went down to the abortion mill where I was at, and it's at the foot of New York Harbor. And you can look across the harbor, and you see the World Trade Center. And while we were praying and counseling, that's when the planes crashed into the towers. And if you remember, the wind was blowing across towards Brooklyn. I mean, right across Brooklyn out to the Atlantic Ocean. And actually, it came, and it was midnight at midday. The whole heavens were absolutely black. Things were falling out of the heavens upon us. Right? And if you recall, everything in New York City stopped at that time. Everything. Except that which is absolutely necessary. One exception. They didn't stop the killing the babies. And so where I was at, I could not leave because the babies were being killed. Now, the pastor of the parish there was Father John DeLendick. There were two chaplains to the New York City Fire Department, Father Judge and Father DeLendick. Father Judge died, as you know. Okay? Father DeLendick almost died. And he said, Phil, I have to leave. I got this call. And I was saying, so he left. I didn't see him for 24 hours, 48 hours. Okay? As a matter of fact, when Father Judge died, I got a call in the middle of the night to say they thought Father DeLendick died. The next Mass, next morning I offered Mass for him, preached a homily. And later on he met me, he said, I heard that homily was pretty good, Father. He said, save it, will you? Save it. He almost did die, though. He almost did die. And what happened was, he told me this. See, I didn't get to ground zero to midnight. But I was at midnight. We went through the 7 checkpoints. We were right there, and the rescuers were trying to pull the bodies out. The stench was overwhelming. We couldn't breathe. We had to put these masks on. You see, it was like an atomic bomb hit the area. 8 buildings came down. So it was just the Twin Towers or everything around it. You see, it was just an incredible, massive humanity. And Father Delanig is interesting. When he was there, the New York Fire Department, most of them were Catholic fellows, to tell you the truth. The New York Fire Department, most of them are Catholics. And when they looked at the Twin Towers and they saw what was happening, they said to Father Delanig, they turned around and they said, the firemen said, look, Father, this is worse than Normandy. We're not coming back. We're not coming back. Aren't the conditions present for general absolution, Father? He said, they are. So those firemen took off their helmets and they knelt down, asked God for mercy, and Father absolved them all. And they picked up their helmets and their thing, material, and they ran into the burning building. They did. And when they got inside, as you know, in a time of fire, you're not allowed to use the elevators. That's for the firemen. And the planes had struck at the 80th floor. So they got in, the elevators weren't working. They weren't working. So these guys had to take their paraphernalia and everything else and start making their way up to the 80th floor. And as they did, they kept getting people out, each floor. Everybody's running down for their lives, and these guys are running up for their death. Absolutely amazing, incredible courage, you see. And of course, they didn't make it to the 80th floor. Around the 70th, it all came down. 3 minutes, 355 men were killed. And when I was at ground zero at midnight, and I'm standing there, I was so helpless. I'm standing at ground zero, and I closed my eyes, and I saw the building again with the people getting ready for work, going to the water fountain, getting some coffee, 9 o'clock in the morning, feeling so safe, so secure, you see. And suddenly I saw this object, this terroristic object, coming into that building, the plane with 50,000 gallons of gas, exploding like a bomb, an atom bomb, and there's no place to hide. And suddenly I saw something totally different at ground zero. Totally different. I stood there at ground zero, my eyes closed, and I didn't see the building, I didn't see the people feeling so secure with this object of terrorists coming at them. I saw a child in the womb. So secure, so safe, peaceful. And suddenly I saw an object breaking through the womb into their security where the child had no place to go, no place to hide. And I opened up my eyes. I said, my God, ground zero is ongoing. Ground zero is not far from where you are. And we need rescuers. You don't have to come to New York. Ground zero is wherever innocent life is under attack. And they need ordinary people like those firemen, ordinary rescuers like yourself today at Bushing Mill. And it makes the difference, all the difference in the world. And I want to mention that to you. It's very, very important. Right? So when you're there at the site, it seems like ordinary, but the definition of a hero turned radically. The heroes are no longer the ball players. The heroes are no longer the stars in the movies and so forth. The heroes is mom and dad, faithful to their work unto death. That's the real heroes, the real people committed and willing to give unto the end. Right? That's what you're called to do. And pro-lifers, I see them all over the world, real heroes, faithful, constant. Right? They could be doing a lot of other things. Once you go there, you know that's where you should go. You have to take time out. But you must be there in the right manner. So if you're there in a prayerful, peaceful, loving way, things happen. You rescue. Because you don't do it, they see God in you. They see God in you. And when they see God in you, it moves their hearts. And you're obtaining the graces for them to change, to take the cross, which is very, very difficult for them. Okay? You have to understand that. So you pray with compassion and loving heart. So if you are not able to go, though, we have these like morning offering prayers that people can offer and say. It's a spiritual support prayers. Maybe they're shut-ins. Maybe they have to take care of the children. But it's like a morning offering, and it's something like this. Eternal Father, author of all life, I know at this very moment a precious preborn human life in the womb of his mother is in danger of horrendous death. However, at this moment I cannot be physically present at the scene to give witness of your love for this tiny human being and the mother you so wonderfully made in her womb. Nevertheless, I wish to present my spiritual self there, and with heartfelt prayers and supplications to send heaven-bound all pleas and urgings. And it goes on. And unite myself to the people who are there. So it's spiritual support prayers that are shut-ins. It gives a purpose to their sufferings. It gives a purpose and meaning to their lives. I remember the sisters of New Jersey who were physically sick. They called and they asked if they could be spiritual support prayers. I remember saying to Mother Superior, are they suffering much? And she's sort of silent, you know, am I dealing with you? And she said, yes. I said, oh, thanks be to God. I said, in your mind, sister, what sister suffers the most? And she said, again, silence, like we're dealing with the madman. See, she says, I think Sister Margaret. I said, give her my name. Give her my name. See? And what happened was they became partners with our psycho counselors. And they sent them like a certificate that they would work with them and offer their sufferings all week long. So when they would go on Saturday to counsel, their prayer, they would be their spiritual support prayers, and together they work as a team. And they had the certificate, and they named the counselors by name and who were the sisters. Now, sometimes in New York it gets cold, dark in the winter. You see, and there's a tendency to turn over in your bed and say, well, you know, God will understand, not this morning, we'll cut it out. Except that Monday morning, you get a call from your partner who suffered all week to know how did we do. And you say, well, it was cold. I sort of had turned over and I went back to sleep. Monsignor, I want a new partner. I offered my sufferings all week for this load, lying in the bed comfortable on a wintry below zero morning. I suffered all week. I want another partner. It's a great guilt trip. It does get them out. But you do have that. In other words, we have people who are shut-ins. We have people who are working. We cause a prayer chain. That's what you want, a prayer chain. Many links. Many links. We have people that make rosaries for us all across the country. And we give the rosaries out. Amazing. People take all faiths, no faiths. Right? Mary just brings it back. Incredible. And what happens is we ask those who are making the rosaries for us to change, don't have a coffee clutch. As you're making the rosaries, I want you to pray for the person to whom these rosaries will be given. They're part of the chain. So you have all these links in the chain. See, you have the large prayer vigil. There are people who very faithfully, for 25 years, have gone every month to the large prayer vigil. There are people who go every week. Some people go every day. Okay? Each one's different. But all are necessary. There's many links in the chain. And you allow as many people as to pass away. But everyone's energy and center is upon Calvary, Golgotha, where innocent blood is being shed. And everything begins to change. Okay? And these places begin to be closed. We mentioned last night in our own diocese, there's 43 places killing babies, because we're the killing center in the world, you know. And 25 are now closed, you see, which is because of, and the people are outside the large ones, we just keep knocking them off, you see. Which is not, and that's legitimate knocking them off, though. There's a spiritual knocking them off. So the prayerful presence is very important as what do you do next? Do you wait for the next large prayer vigil? No, you don't. You can go directly to the site, have someone who is in charge, and they are the prayer books. You could go for an hour, 2 hours, 15 minutes, but you know when you get there, and when you go, you form a circle or a square. It's really in the geometry, trapezoid. But I want you to be turned in that people see people praying. Now, while you're doing this, is there any place for signs or images? Yes, there is. Yes, there are. Well, I have them. But I don't walk around with them. Walking around is protesting, picketing. I set up an exhibit for life. We normally don't do it with the prayer vigil. We might do it with the prayer vigil before the vigil and after the vigil, but not during the prayer vigil. No one goes around with signs, nobody. Because I want people at this moment to say they are praying. Not protesting, not picketing. They are here in prayer. See? So you limit it. Now, what we do is I have the fetal models, you know. You ever see the real fetal models? You can get a... The Archdiocese of Baltimore, you ever hear that place, Maryland? I mean, they have these 9 months of pregnancy, beautiful colored pictures. They're laminated in the size you can get it from them. They're excellent. My mother felt me kicked this morning. I just had a dream and so forth. And they're very attractive, very beautiful, and they laminate them and everything for you. So what you can do is we put them actually as a triptych. We put a triptych. And the triptych is that we put the three of them together, so you can open it up and they stand by themselves, or you can put it flat, wherever you want. And I have it every morning. I bring my little kids with me, and I just open it up in the ground, and I have the actual fetal models, and I put them on top of the pictures, you see? And then I have another picture there, and it's the culture of death, the culture of life. In what way? It's an icon from Eastern Europe. And in the icon, it has light and darkness, culture of life, light, darkness. It has a blessed lady and St. Joseph and the child. It has a mother and the family, a widow and so forth. And it's all light. It's life. And then the other side, it is darkness, where it has the queen of abortion. And she's asking for the children, for the mothers. There's 4 types of mothers depicted there. The worldly one is just giving the kid over. One who's reluctant. You see, doesn't want to. One who's looking away, doesn't want to believe it. One is just paralyzed by circumstances, just happening. See, all the different types of mothers are depicted in the thing. And then the queen of abortion is taking the kids. The kids are dead in front of her throne. And behind her is the abortionist. And the abortionist is putting a sword through the child. Money's coming out of all of his pockets. And behind him is a serpent about to swallow them all up. Now, it's incredible. It's in color. It's a powerful icon. But who did that icon? It was a Dr. Adashevich. Dr. Adashevich. I prayed over him in Vienna, Austria, on the Feast of Our Lady of Fatima. Dr. Adashevich, he runs the prayer vigils for me in Belgrade, Serbia. Dr. Adashevich was a leading abortionist in Serbia. He himself did 60,000 abortions. And then after the 60,000 abortions, a little hand fell off the gurney onto the floor. It was open. And Dr. Adashevich, he told me, he reached down to get the hand, and the nerves are still alive, and before he got there, it closed. Too late. I'm dead. That was the last abortion he did. Last abortion he did. Right? And I prayed over him. And he runs the Helpless Prayer Vigils in Vienna, in Belgrade, one of the most atheistic cities in the world. And his icons are now through Eastern Europe. I use them outside the abortion. That's where I am. It's in Russian. I have the translation. But it's powerful. It's powerful. And there it is. We say, well, who's going to be the great pro-lifer in Eastern Europe? Well, the man who killed 60. See, Dr. Nathanson only did 5,000 to 15,000. This man did 60,000. This man is leading prayer vigils in the most atheistic city in the world. He's now attacked. The one who was glorified, he's now attacked because it doesn't stop him. He doesn't stop him. Pray for him. Pray for him, because it's not easy, because 60,000 is 60,000. He needs the grace of God for healing yet, you know. But we prayed over him. I said, in Fatima, the world comes for life. But you just don't know. But we have this exhibit. It has this icon. It has these pictures. You have the fetal models of children. And we just let it there. People come and look at it. I don't say anything. People come out, you see the bring people there, they come over and look at it. So you have an exhibit for life, but it's not in your face. It's near where the people are praying. They come and they look and they view, fine. And the counselor is away from all of that. So the counselor is off on their own, apart from the prayers, apart from the exhibit for life. So is there a place for exhibits and signs? Yes, there is, but in the right place in the right way. Not in your face, not protesting. It doesn't change the atmosphere at all. They come out and they look and they see. We just never look. The only one that talks to them is when you're praying, you're not a talker. You pray. Only the counselor talks to the people. Okay? You're not there to talk and get involved in conversations. You're not there for an argument. That's not, I'll see you later. Not now. Not now. I'm here to pray. So the prayers must be disciplined. They must be disciplined. And you have this exhibit for life that is very powerful, very effective, if it's near where the prayers are. We do have one sign that simply says this. It's black letters on a white board, stands about that high. You can put it on the ground, hold it, everyone do it. Simply says, we are praying for the end of abortion. It says it all. That's it. I don't have to say anything. Now, I'm at 81 Willoughby Street in the Metro Tech area of Brooklyn. That's not a place where you do a protest. It's non-residential, no parking, massive humanity. People going to work, lawyers, college kids, everything. It's massive humanity every day. And I go, and I sat in my exhibit, and I started praying the rosary in the middle of this whole thing. People looking at me, who is this guy? What is this? It's like, well, you remember we have, in America, we had Operation Wall Street? Remember that? Or they called it OWS, okay, Operation Wall Street. Well, the officer wanted me to remove the stuff, you know. I said, wait, no. I said, you ever hear of OWS? Yeah, I said, well, this is it, OWS. I'm on Willoughby Street, Operation Willoughby Street. He said, what gives you a right to be here? He said, this is private property. I said, private? I said, that's amazing. I own it. You own it? I said, yeah, I own it. The public site belongs to me. See? And I have a right to be here. See? So he had to back off eventually, the whole thing. See? But we're there now, and all these people, I get blessed every day. Every day I get blessings. What was the latest thing I was called? God said, blessed are you, but they persecute you for my sake. You see, every day I get blessings from God. You see, no question about it. But one guy comes up to me, he says, do you realize not a single person wants you here? 10 seconds later, a woman comes by and says, God bless you. This is all the time. You see, some people come and actually I think they pointed to heaven. God praying for this man. I think isn't that what that means? I think they're directing prayers to God. You see, this is what it is. I think so. I get that sign frequent enough. One woman comes in, I can see her a block away. She's already doing it all the way to me. See, but that means nothing, because for every one there's 9 that are now being educated. For every one there's 9 others who would say, now, blessed are you. You see, it's interesting. And they did not know that in the building we're all going into, on the 6th floor, babies are killed there 6 days a week from up to the 7th month. Yes, every day. It's one of the major abortion mills. Pouring in. And no one knew that until I arrived. See, the abortionist doesn't care what I think. But he's much concerned about what his neighbors and his fellow tenants think. Because now I've blown the cover. And everybody's looking. You see, do you work there? What's going on? Everything begins to change. Everything begins to change when you're outside, see? But you have to be willing to take, what they say, you can't work in the kitchen, you can't take the heat. Well, that's nothing. You go out there. Now, so what we do is this, exhibit for life, absolutely use it at the right moment, at the right time. But prayers are not speakers. They're not to get involved in conversations. It's not time to debate. You're there to pray in the presence of God. The exhibit is informative, and the people come and watch it. The only ones that speak and speak to the group is the counselors. Okay? Now, I have a little book. We put together which you're welcome to have, is a 20 pages guideline for sidewalk counselors, written from the streets, all different situations. Okay? So anyone that wants to, we have some here, but we can send this material to Francesca. And then those that are interested, we get into the same thing. We have this little book called the Compendium. Okay, it's presentations that I did. One is the main talk, if you want the opening talk at the World Congress for Life at Rome. It was 400 people from 40 nations. And we did the roots of the culture of death, okay? Many people wanted. And then the talk on the Mani Vitae, Holy Father Benedict XVI, he went to Aparecida, it's outside Sao Paulo, Brazil. And he spoke to all the bishops of South America and the Caribbean. And this was in June, I think, of 2007. And he told them, they're coming at you. No question, they're coming at you. They want South America, in particular Brazil, the largest Catholic country in the world. And he said, you must resist. Resist. And so in 2008, they had a Congress for Life in South America and so forth in February. And the opening talk was on the Mani Vitae. And they asked me to come to give the opening talk on the Mani Vitae, which I did. And that's the second talk in this book. It's on the Mani Vitae and Dona Vitae, the two encyclicals. And the third talk is entitled, A Woman Should Marry a Man for All Seasons. Yes, when I was first ordained, 1960, okay, I was assigned to St. Thomas More Parish. And St. Thomas More, remember the book? A Man for All Seasons. And 65, the movie came out, Schofield won Academy Awards and so forth. And so I entitled this talk, A Woman Should Marry a Man for All Seasons. And you know what the talk is about? It's about natural family planning. And the seasons, let me just read to you the beginnings here. You understand this? I got a page. You understand? What's your appetite? Okay. It gets people to read them. First they realize, my God, it's the teachings of the church. I have here. A woman should marry a man for all seasons. The menstrual cycle of a woman, so natural family planning. The menstrual cycle of a woman has been described as similar to the seasons of the year. In each cycle, the inner environment of a woman's body goes through changes like the changes that occur in the external environment of nature. In autumn, trees shed their rich foliage and prepare for new life or growth. The sign of autumn time in the woman is the shedding of the inner lining of the uterus, while the ovum grows and matures within the ovary. The autumn season is menstruation. As in nature, so in the woman, autumn is followed by winter. In winter, the temperature drops, the earth appears dry and barren, even though a hidden growth is occurring. The mystery of life through apparent death permeates all of creation and is found in a woman's body. The sign of the winter season for the woman is a drop in her basal body temperature, accompanied by a sensation of vaginal dryness, while the ovum is imperceptibly matured. The time needed for the ovum to mature and break forth determines the length of winter and makes a cycle long or short. Winter gives way to spring, when the ovum bursts forth from the ovary as flowers burst forth in the season of spring. The sign of spring in the woman is the opening of the cervix and special cervical mucus. Finally, spring yields to the sustained high temperatures of summer, and again a vaginal dryness appears. If conception takes place, the season of summer will continue, with the temperature remaining high and the maintenance of the inner wall of the uterus, in order to provide for the new human life a warm, healthy environment. If there's no conception, summer will yield in 14 to 16 days to the cooler temperatures of autumn, and the inner lining of the uterus will be shed, and then a new menstrual cycle will begin. As a young woman increases her awareness through natural family planning of the various seasons found in each menstrual cycle, so also in the same woman there will be an increased wonderment and respect for the God-given life potential process in her body, and a greater sense of personal dignity and appreciation of potentially motherly role. The young woman should marry a man for all seasons. namely one who will respect her inner environment and accept all the seasons of his wife's feminine cycle, especially the springtime of life. That's the first page. These books contain those various talks I give that people wanted, so we finally printed it up. See, to get them off my back. So you are welcome to find out how many you need, Francesca, and we can send it to you for people that want to get the book, and if they want to give, they can give. Okay. Now, in 1998, I did a vigil in Glendale, California. It's a suburb of Los Angeles. And after the vigil, I went into the church, and they had me do like a workshop, and on similar to what I'm doing here. But I didn't know what they were doing. Is they had a guy like this in front of me with a camera, and they taped it, okay? And so it cost a $6 tape, and it was unedited, and that's this, okay? 2 hours, and it's used all over the world. It was a cheap film to make. $6, you see? But people do find it, and what it does is dealing with what I'm doing here, what do you do after a large prayer vigil? Prayerful presence, exhibits for life, and the last thing I do today is on-cycle counseling. See, the on-cycle counseling, how do you do that? Now, in this book, too, here, pages 111, okay, 111, I think it's 111, I see, get straight here. Here it is, 111. How about that? Okay. It's dealing with sidewalk counseling. What I say to you to do, the people who do sidewalk counseling, do indirect counseling. Indirect counseling, not direct counseling. See, when a woman is coming for an abortion, what I will do to her, let me just explain here. To be effective, you have to be able to hear body language. It doesn't lie. It's truthful. Okay? In other words, when a person is coming, and no matter what they say to you, I can tell if they're saying the truth or not. Okay? I can tell from body language a long distance from an abortion mill who's coming for an abortion, who is not. See, I'm in a place right now. There's thousands of bodies, people, and I pick them off like flies. Okay, I know who's coming for an abortion, who had an abortion. Okay? Now, if you're not skilled in this, you've not been doing it long enough, it's a tough corner to be in. Okay, because you have all these kids going to college, working there, everybody else, the sea of humanity. That's the one. Right? They're right ready to do it, and inevitably, even they're coming back out, they come to me. Okay? Isn't that amazing now? In this spot, I can't go to them. It's impossible. It's not the same thing. Thousands going in. What do? You have to trust in God. You put a peaceful, prayerful presence there. You pray, and they will come to you. They will come to you. Okay? Amazing. So you say, "Well, we can't reach them." They will come to you. They will come to you if you really go into deep prayer. Okay? So what happens is this: is that when the mother's coming, I watch the body language. If the person is accompanying the woman, you have to figure out, are they on your side or not? But usually if a fellow is accompanying with a girl, he's against you. If he's for you, he's probably not coming with them. So it's the exception. When she's coming with a friend, many times the friend is with you. They're trying to tell her not to have the abortion. Sometimes the fellow's too. But normally, if the fellow's with her, he probably wants to make sure she's going to have this abortion. If she's alone, she probably has been abandoned by a home. Or she's going against what everyone's saying to do. So you're looking at it. So the body language is very important. You're trying to observe this. So I see a fellow coming, and I notice that this guy's not with me. So I don't want to give him the materials, because he's going to bury it. Right? And he's coming down, he sees me, And he is positioning himself between me and her. Huh? I see that. So this is all my senior. He doesn't know what's going on. I'm sort of lying against the wall, watching them coming, see? And I'm observing. I wait till I see he's not with me. Right? He's positioning himself that he's going to get this material. She's never going to see it. So when I have them about 2 tables away, okay, suddenly I'm against it. I get a weak spell. You can't, you know, old man, you get a weak spell, you know, weak spell. And all of a sudden I get weak and I sort of go, towards the curb. And suddenly, when I go towards the curb, okay, I'm on her side, not his side. Really? So when she's coming now, he has to jump in front of her in order to stop her from getting the materials. And then she realizes he doesn't want me to have this. Right? So it goes all the way through. The great cop-out of the fellas is they say to the girls, your choice, I respect your choice. When she says, yeah, I'd like to keep the kid. What? That's the story. They don't want it. There's no choice. They're pressuring her constantly, see? A guy that wants the kid, he doesn't speak of choice at all. He says, I want the child. I'll have it. But most of them feel that the guy won't. Another thing is, some of these guys, they hate him. And they say, if I keep the kid, I'm stuck with this guy. So I have to kill the kid to get rid of this guy. He'll be in my life forever. There's truth to it. You know, you can't say it's not true. Because but most of them fall by the wayside. But anyway, as they're coming, you're trying to decide. So if a woman's coming by herself, even if there's escorts, you can speak. You can speak and they can hear. Okay? You get nothing into their hands. You can speak and they can hear. And when they're coming, you got about 45 seconds to a minute to say what you have to say. You're longer than that's fine, but we presume you have 45 seconds to a minute. That's it. Now what do you say? How do you say it? Well, first of all, what you don't say is, don't kill your baby. Which I can hear echoing yet. That's not. As though, anyways, Cicero, remember here Marcus Tullius Cicero, the great Latin art, see? He said, before you make your point, you have to get 3 things. The exordium of your speech must be that you get the goodwill, the attention, and the docility of your audience before you make your point. Otherwise, you're speaking to yourself. Speak to yourself. So how do you get the goodwill, the docility of an audience who's coming that thinks you're a terrorist, because that's all they've heard? And you tend to think, because the light bulb goes off in your head one day, you realize what's happening to the babies, and you try to transfer to the people doing that. They must be awful when they allow this to happen to the babies. Actually, the woman's coming person you were talking to in the shopping mall yesterday, who suddenly finds out she's pregnant, she's not ready, and the unthinkable becomes thinkable because down the black she can give solve problems. And she's coming, and she thinks of you as the picture as terrorist. Blocking, not freedom of choice. Oh my gosh. So that's her mentality, and she feels, how am I going to get by you? You're condemning me. You're blocking me. And you think this person is an awful person because you're going to have an abortion. She's your neighbor who suddenly is pregnant in a circumstances she never expected. That's what it comes down to, see? So when she comes, look, you want to get the goodwill, docility, and attention. So you don't say to her, don't have an abortion, don't do this, don't do that. No. What I do is this. I have the materials in my hand, see? And there is a pamphlet called Did You Know? Okay? And the Did You Know is the child at 10 weeks. Comes from Cincinnati, Ohio, Dr. Wilkie. Okay? And inside has the Did You Know 10 weeks, and inside it has a suction abortion. When people are coming to an abortion mill, they do not want the people to know what the child looks like. They do not want the people to think about how we're going to get it out. What are we going to do with it? What the effect's going to be? They want people to know, choice. And even people who say to you they're pro-choice, you say, fine, can I ask you some questions? What does a child look like at this point in the mother's womb? Do you ever think of that? Do you ever think of how are we going to get it out? I know how it comes out normally. In other words, normally the child at the 9th month it reverses, so the child turns down, and the child causes the contraction. The mother doesn't cause the contractions. The child causes the opening of the cervix and the contractions. Mother doesn't do it. And she could be, the kid is coming. Whether you're in the middle of Queens Midtown Tunnel, doesn't make any difference. I'm coming. It's not my problem. You should not be in the middle of the tunnel when you're this close. It's your fault, not mine. I'm coming. You see, you can't come now. I'm coming. You see, I'm coming. And you don't determine the contractions. I do, and I'm coming now. You see, what are you doing? So a mother has to sort of, the closer she gets, she stays to your home. She doesn't go on a boat ride. You see, she doesn't take the trains. Okay, you come. But when it's natural. When it's finally the 9 months, the child causes the opening. The child comes gracefully, detaches and comes out. You see, in most places in the country, in the world, they don't have doctors. They don't need doctors. As a matter of fact, I was born without a doctor. That's a fact. In my mother's bedroom, there were 2 doctors coming. I was always independent. The 2 doctors were rushing to get the money. I beat both of them, saved my mother the bills. When they arrived, I was there. Hello. Name is Philip. But the fact is that it's natural. It's a normal thing. It's happening all over the world. Just as now we're finding out the best milk to feed the child is breastfeeding. You see, go ahead and do that all over the world. They can't get formula. There's no stores to go out and buy it. You see. And now we're telling mothers, this is the best type of food you could give. It prevents diseases and everything else, everything about it, see? So at any rate, what they don't want the people to think about is what does the child look like now? See, if you are going by an apple tree and it's green, you take it doesn't come. You have to pull it. And if you pull up part of the branch. And it's not yet ready. If it's right, you hit it right into your hand, it comes. Right to your hand it comes. So you ask the person, you're for choice, okay? Can I ask you a question? What does the child look like right now? They don't want you to think about that. How are we going to get it out? Are we going to take it like the apple and rip it off the branch? Well, it's implanted in the side of the wall of the woman. Mother, it's not ready to come. What are you doing? Get out of here. I'm not ready to come. What is this? How are they going to get it out? And when they want to get it, it can't fit. There's not an opening. So how are they going to get it out? Well, they have to rip it off the wall. Hemorrhaging, problems. How are they going to get it out? It can't fit. See, it causes the contraction, it causes the opening, but before that, there is no opening. So when they put into the woman what they call sticks, girls call it sticks, laminaria, and absorbs moisture from the mother's body, put hundreds of these sticks into the woman to try to force opening the cervix, the womb. See? And even if that still doesn't work, if the bigger child, they do it 2 or 3 days in a row, it still is not big enough. So they get these dilators. And the dilators, they're forcing open. It's still not big enough. So what do? They have to go in and tear the kid apart, piece by piece. How are they going to get it out? Right? That's reality. So what are you talking about choice? And when they get it out, can I ask you a question? What are they going to do with it? What are they going to do with it? Well, I can tell you. They have what they call medical waste garbage trucks. They come, the place I was at, on Friday it came, it was a warehouse truck. It was the last stop for the week, totally filled. The whole big, long trailer truck with human bodies. The waste of the bodies. What are they going to do with it? And when they do get it out, and mother finds out, my God, it was a child, and she's depressed. What are we going to do for her? Choice? No, people say choice. They don't want to see the mother after it. And so what happens is this. What the abortionist does not want to know is the help available. He doesn't want to know there's somebody praying for her, God will help her. He doesn't want to think about what the child looks like, what they're going to do to the child. He does not want to think that even if she had a previous abortion, that God's mercy is still available to her. They want none of that. And you must tell them all of that in 45 seconds. I'll show you how to do it. That's all I have. They're too busy. I can't even take more time than that. Right? And even if this escort makes no difference, they're going to hear this. And so when the woman is coming, what do I say to her? I do indirect counseling. I say, I don't tell her about abortion. What do you do? No, not at all. I say, Mother, would you take a spare rosary beads? And I have here. You know why God gave us a neck, don't you? Yeah. We'll leave behind our heads constantly. You didn't hear that. I said, you know why God gave us a neck? Because if we didn't, we'd leave behind constantly our head. I know, okay? So when the mother is coming, okay, I say to her, Mom, will you take these rosaries, and this is how to say the rosary, and do me a favor. Would you pray for the mothers who came here this morning? All the mothers came here this morning came here because they have difficulties and real problems, or they would not have come here. Now you see, you got to, when you to speak to someone, you have to get their goodwill, docility, and attention. Suddenly, you disarmed her. You're not condemning her. You say, my God, you know we come here with problems. You know they're real. Okay? And I'm asking you, would you please pray for the mothers who have come here this morning because they have problems in real. Because most of them are about, they're single moms. They're about 10 weeks pregnant. Okay? And they have real problems. They don't know what to do. They don't know where to turn, what to do. And they need our prayers. And I say, and I have the roses here, and I have the here, and under my thumb here, I have little Philip. this is little Philip, see? Yes, it is. He saved a lot of lives, Philip, okay? I have little Philip under my thumb. I keep him there. He acts up sometimes, so I keep him there. So I keep little Philip under my thumb, see? And I say to the mothers, the moms who come here, they have come because they have problems and they're real, or they wouldn't have come here. That's not condemnatory. That's understanding, you see? And I said, and most of them are single, about 10 weeks pregnant. Well, they're about the size of little Philip here. Suddenly I take my thumb off and I show them little Philip. And so they see him. Now, and I said, they don't know what to do, but we give them help, and I give them this. These are places that will help this mom to help little Philip. Now, if they go there, I know it's very, very difficult because they're single, they got pressures in 1,000 different ways. They need our prayers. Will you pray for them? They need courage. Right? They need courage. Sometimes they come back here. Right? And if they come back here, I have to have an abortion. See? It's interesting, if a person's upset, you drop your voice. There is a difference between teenage boys and teenage girls. Anyone who says there isn't, they have not taught. I know. I tell you this, I used to teach teenage senior fellows, you see, Virgil Latin, right? And so they would try to distract me by talking about the Yankees or life. They were clever, very close. And I would let them distract me because I know it's about time to have a break. So they thought they were distracting me, but I was involved. I should have to give them a break. But then I figure the break is over. And then I say to the young fellows, I'd say, shut up. Oh, okay, Father, okay, we got to get back to the text. I'll get back to the text, see? Now, can I go on with it? Now, if I had a class of teenage girls, and I suddenly said to them, shut up. It's not the end of the class, it's the end of the day, it's the end of the year. And they said, what did you mean by that? What do you mean, what do I mean? I meant shut up. Oh, no, that's what you said. You said shut up. No, I said shut. No, you said shut up, not shut up, shut up. What do you mean by that? What do you mean by that? I don't know what you're talking about. That's exactly it. You don't care what we're talking about. Oh, my God. You see, I've lost it for the year. See? I was teaching, I saw these two fellas in the hall, they're going down the hall, and they're beating the hell out of each other. Literally. They're on the ground. I will pull them apart and separate them. Right? At 3 o'clock that afternoon, I saw the two guys walking through the hall saying, what are we going to do this afternoon? Should we play basketball? Should we play... I think these two guys were killing each other, you see? Now, could you imagine two girls, you see, going at it, and later, impossible. The reason is simply this. Those two fellas, you see, the two girls, it's always about because young teenage girls live 90% of their time in their feelings. And if you hurt their feelings, it's the end of the day. It's the end of the day. How can the young fellas be back at it? Because young teenagers have absolutely no feelings. Teenage fellas, they don't know. They have to learn to have a sensitivity and feelings. They don't know. They kill each other. So what? We play ball this afternoon, see? Whereas the young women have to learn to live more with their reason too, besides their feelings. They got to control their emotions, otherwise they enslave them. The other fellows have to learn sensitivity. Okay, it's a different type of growth. But the girl who's coming for an abortion, she's filled with feelings. She may look very controlled. It's just a matter of seconds should overflow into a mountain of tears. Okay, you have to understand that. So when they're coming, you're dealing with this situation, and so the steps are simply now. God bless you, Mother. Will you take these roses and do me a favor? Will you pray for the people who've gone in this morning? They have real problems and everything. They're single mothers, about 10 weeks. We try to provide them help. Here's the help. But if they come back, when a person is upset, you lower your voice. You don't intensify it. Okay? You lower your voice. And I say to them, come back here. And when they come back here, I said, if they go inside, and again I show them Philip, because that's 10 weeks. I said, inside here, in 4 minutes, you know what they're going to do to Philip. This is what they're, and suddenly I have this underneath. I have it underneath. And so now suddenly I pull it, I show Philip, and I pull it out, and suddenly I show them the effects of a suction abortion. They've seen it. I put it back under. It's all done in seconds. That's what they did not want you to see. And I said, this is what they'll do to the child. I said, God forbid, but even if they did it to the child, the mother afterwards in the recovery room, 10 minutes after the abortion, she realized, my God, what have I done? And when she comes back out, Mom, we're going to be here. And we're going to tell her about God's love for her. They never stop loving her. And she has to trust the good God and stop loving God again. Now what do I do? This is all indirect counseling. Now the person I'm speaking to is this person. Now I begin direct counseling. I begin direct counseling now. And I say to her is simply this. I said, Mom, do you need help? Did you ever have a past abortion? God never stopped loving you. Now you know the truth. You have to start turning around and love God. There's loads of help available for you. How can we help you? Suddenly begin to speak. And I have been speaking about past abortions in less than 1 minute. And people say, oh, you're in a 10th session. 10th session, I got 1 minute. Please. It's too many. See? So what happens is, and once they start to take the materials, and the help is there, and we tell them people praying and so forth. Now, even if they go inside, if you've done the job, they come back out. I can see it. Because everything they didn't want them to know, they now know. What the child looks like, how they're going to get the child out, what happens to the child if the child is aborted, that there's help available, that everything that they don't want you to know, her to know, you've done it. See, inside they will not show the sonogram. They turn it away from her. And the reason they turn away from her is because if she sees the sonogram, she'll keep the child. That's why you have this, now across the country, they have these trucks outside, the sonograms. And have you seen the 4D sonogram machines? I mean, it's like the kid is shaking hands with you. It's incredible. And of course, that's why so many doctors now will not do abortions. Because for the first 3 classes, if you look in the medical textbooks, it says, when a woman comes in pregnant, you have 2 patients. And the first 3 classes, they tell you what you can do for the second patient. It's marvelous. They actually, remember the picture of the child holding the hand of the doctor? You say, well, that kid is being taken out. It was taken out. It will operate on, put back in. It's alive today and healthy. They are able to do incredible operations of the children who are in the womb, taking them out, operating them, putting them back in, and cure things you couldn't do later on when they're born. It's a marvelous area. And they were like 300 pages alone, the average textbook, of what you can do for the child, class after class after class. And in the fourth class, well, this is how you kill the second patient. The doctor's like, you're kidding. You're teaching us this, how to kill the second patient, after you told us how we could help that second patient? That's why most doctors coming out now will not do an abortion. That's why they're running short. That's why in New York City, Governor Cuomo wants to change the law to allow anybody to perform an abortion. I thought we passed the law because we didn't want back alley abortions. Now he wants anybody from the back alley to be able to do the abortion. Anyone involved in any area of health, your foot doctor, your eye doctor, anybody, a nurse, practitioner, anybody. Think of that. It's incredible. And he wants it through the 9 months. Arkansas just made it 12 weeks. And he knows that. And he knows it's closing down, so he wants to lock in 9 months for New York State. Pray for us. We do not have good leaders. Okay? In the area of life, they're a disaster. Disaster. Maybe good in other areas, but not in the area of life. Not in the area of life, a disaster. So he's trying to push that law through right now. Okay? So at any rate, what you're doing is you're informing this woman about all the things they don't want her to know. What the child looks like, help is available, God will forgive her, we're praying for her, you see. Everything that, if she goes in relaxed, many times I don't mind them going in. Because if you've done the job outside, see, they come there because they have problems that are real. And they're trying to resolve the problems by going into paradise. Well, they go into paradise, they find it's hell. And outside on the street, with the people who call themselves pro-life is our paradise. The contrast is overwhelming. So when they go inside and they experience how you're going to pay for this, get online, right? This type of thing. Well, and then outside, the people are prayerful, loving. Right? The contrast overwhelms them. They know. So if they don't go in, many times they're going to come back. If you did the job well and they go in, they come back out, they're not coming back. Because they realize this is not the answer. It's not paradise. It's cold-hearted. How are you going to pay this? Get online and everything else. Whereas outside, the people are loving, caring, the whole 9 yards. So when it comes down to simply this, I'm saying you do indirect counseling, and it works. Very, very effective. And even if they don't take any materials from you, you send everything in 45 seconds. And in the book here on pages 111, 12, 13, 14, it explains how to do indirect counseling. Okay? That's that area there. There is the cassette you can get or download. We have helperslibrary.info. Helperslibrary.info. You can download talks, videos, anything you want, okay, from the thing. And it has these tapes and everything else, okay? The talk I gave last night will probably be up there, okay? If you're interested in getting it. Helperslibrary.info, I-N-F-O.
Monsignor, I presume, I hope you have texts that would recommend signage that would get them to open the window so we can have this conversation in the first place. In many locations, they'll just drive right in. Sure. We can't get them to have that conversation or the opportunity.
Right. You know what happens is this. You do what you can, and then you expect God to do the rest. We are able now to, the people who drive them in, to talk to them when they're coming back out. And they have telephones, they have cell phones, they're able to call the people inside. So you don't think only that you're talking to the person coming, you're talking to everybody that's coming, before and after. Right? So you do what you can. And I'm not able to speak to them on the way in often, where I'm now. This is a massive humanity. Right? But they see me, they know. And I'm there in a very peaceful, prayerful way. And they come back out every day. People come back out and come to me. So one of the things is this, you do what you can, and then God has to take care of the rest. That's what it comes down to.
Well, locally, we have developed some signage that might tempt someone to open that window, but we're not that confident in its effectiveness in any way to improve it.
Well, the thing is, I would say, if you have an exhibit for life with signs that they could read, but see, what you don't want to do is have it that they say there's protesters and picketers out there. They'll use that against you inside. I know that from inside information, dealing with the abortionist. They told me those have been converted. In other words, the most powerful presence is if you have an exhibit for life near where the people are praying, that they can look at it, they can see, and you put it towards the ground propped up, so when they're driving in, they drive past it, okay? In other words, when they're coming like into the driveway, they come where we were today, most will seem to be coming up this way. So you have an exhibit for life further down, and they're coming, and you have it on the side where the girl probably would be, because she's not driving. And you have it on the ground, propped up. You have some people praying there. That's why you want the most effective spots where we were this morning, rather than up near the abortion clinic when they're driving in. Then you have some people near the driveway who would be counselors who are trying to give materials to them, you see, and before and after the abortion. And so you have to adopt, if I have time, to each place. But the most important thing is that overwhelming power of prayer, an excellent exhibit for life, okay, and then a good sign where counselors know what they're doing. And there is, for example, how do you get people to open up their windows and so forth? We pantomime. I remember I did a prayer vigil in. I'm going to do 15 more minutes. I said 3 o'clock. Okay, so we got 15 minutes to go. But I'll do a little distraction here. We were doing a prayer vigil in Phoenix, Arizona. And thanks be to God, the last 4 prayer vigils we did in Phoenix, the 4 places closed. You see? Yeah. There's not they're doing marvelous work in Phoenix. The last time I went, they brought me to 4 places outside of Phoenix, okay, in one day. They have a life center there, 2 life centers there that are incredible. They have 4D sonogram machines, but they're putting actually Planned Parenthood out of business. You know how many patients they had come to their place last year? 7,600. Wow. They do everything now. They have nurses that give their time, and they do everything. Pap test, everything. Remove IUDs. They do everything. And they have these 4D sonogram machines. And I think last year they had 550 people went in to have an abortion. You saw the machine, the child kept it. It's amazing. So what I'm saying is that I was there and one of these places, and they drive in. You can't get to them at all. And then they come out of the car right across into the mill. So you can't get them. So the people sort of shouting at them, you know. And I said, look, we're praying at this moment. It's killing the whole atmosphere. It's contrary. We're praying and quiet, and you're shouting and screaming. So I said, I couldn't take it. I said, hold it. I'm going to go down and do this. So I went down to the person. I said, can I have this print a minute? And looking at me, I said, now watch this. So when the person got out of the car, I went to the person. I pantomimed. And I said to them, please take it, it's not you. And that person, meanwhile, I'm backed up with beautiful hymns and songs, you see, and this and this. So the person gets out of the car, and she's halfway across, and she sees me pleading with her, please take it, see. And she turns around, she comes all the way down, and she takes it, and I say, thank you. And she walks away and goes inside. Right? She came back out. You see? Yeah, so what I'm saying to you is, you don't want to break the atmosphere by climbing over fences and shouting and everything else. And I understand that. You say, baby's life is it. But until you touch her heart, God's going to save it. God's going to save the child eventually, see? And you do what you can, and then you say, God, you're going to have to take care of the rest. Yeah. Yes.
Just a quick follow-up, if I may. Many years ago, a lot of communities were concerned about pornography shops, and they were protesting them, using political action to get rid of them, and so on. And eventually, what really got rid of them was new technology, whereby people can access it even more. And what's really happening now is that the abortions are happening through either the morning after pill or the badly disclosed effect of the pill the pill with regard to breakthrough fertilizations. And so this is having a significant impact. Actually, those 2 factors are causing the pharmacies to compete and very effectively with
The abortion
the
mills.
abortion mills.
Yeah, okay.
And they're having a serious impact on those numbers, whereas, politicians are claiming those numbers are happening because of the politicians. But at any rate, shouldn't we begin doing something akin to this at or near
The pharmacies. Okay, I tell you what, we just put up a new website, and I'd ask you to go view it, okay? It's called www.wewanttobeTaught.com. Now, what this is you're not going to overcome this culture death until every pulpit in the world is teaching the teachings of the church. It's the only ultimate answer. Now, what we have is this. If you read We Want to Be Taught, we have in the process an initiative on the part of lay people from around the world, asking the church. We were asking Pope Benedict XVI, and I had been in contact with him. He resigned, the son of a gun. But he still is with us, okay? We're going to ask his successor. And what we have is, you have the Catholic Catechism, right, which is not being taught. And then the compendium, the Holy Father took the Catholic Catechism, reduced it to 172 pages, and reduced it to question-answer, right to the whole Catholic Catechism. There's 3 parts to the Catechism. One is what we believe. Number 2 is Mass and the sacraments. And number 3 is the commandments of God, okay, and prayer. Now, in the church's Year of Grace, we have ordinary Sundays, A, B, and C. For the ordinary Sundays A, B, and C, we want a special Sunday lectionary, a catechetical lectionary, in which the priest is not going to be told to try to take the scripture and fit it into the catechism somewhere. But systematically, every priest in the world will be teaching on the first Sunday of 2014, I believe, from the catechism, with the questions and answers, and that will determine the scriptures that we're going to use on that Sunday. So instead of putting the cart before the horse, instead of the poor priest being forced to find somewhere he can apply this, it'll be a systematic training, go through the whole catechism. Every priest in all the world, at the same time, the same place, will be teaching the same thing. And the people will be told beforehand what areas he's going to teach, follow through. So every 3 years you go through the whole catechism, including all the sections, including sexuality, contraception, and everything else. And you will not be able to jump over it because it's going to be right in the order, and the people know it. And the bishop can say, Father, how come this week you did not touch this matter? You see? And the people can come and say, Father, how come you didn't teach on sexuality? Our people are being brainwashed, they do not understand. In other words, the church can say, we're not paying contraceptives. But those people are shocked. Why? They don't know. See? But if they did understand fully the beautiful teachings of the church on sexuality, you wouldn't have to say it. They would not be using them. So part of your problem is this incredible 40 years of ignorance, 40 years of not being taught. But once we would teach, we are a sleeping giant. And once you'd have every priest in every pulpit all through the world marching to the same cadence, we would be unstoppable. Because people would be coming back to church. The people who are in church would know their faith, and they're praying, and they would be active. So this is an incredible, special moment. And I ask you, look it up, sign it, encourage others to do so. We want, during this year of faith, to have the people taught their faith. Okay? And everyone, it's coordinated by all the world. Wherever I go, I want the priest all preaching the same thing from the catechism at the same time. And whenever mass you go to, you know what the priest said last week? And he's building on that. Whatever priest you go, he's building right over the same matter. And it's going systematically all through the catechism. So every 10 years you go through the catechism 3 times. And it's all through your life. Right now, scripture is fine. But they don't know their basic catechism. They don't know their faith. If we remove that, within 10 years, we could change the world. This is very, very important. And it's interesting, the 2 people who are doing this for me, okay, the young woman, she was an atheist in China. Yes. She come to know God. She came here, she heard me speak in Philadelphia, and she is an incredible, brilliant young woman. She came into the faith, and she's a genius in the areas of technology, the computers and everything else. Absolute genius. And the fellow that she ended up coming to know and to marry was from Judaism, a convert to the faith. And so the two people who are pushing this, and they're doing a marvelous job, you can see the picture of them, okay, is a fellow from Judaism and a fellow from atheism, a woman from atheism. And they've gone through the catechism. They know their faith, and they know the problem. See? And so I find that in itself is an amazing story of grace. Amazing story of grace. We're going to be on Eternal Word Television. You ever hear of Eternal Word Television? It's Father Cushell. You ever hear him? Okay. Well, he has been replaced by Father Apostoli, Andrew Apostoli. Okay. So, and Andrew asked me to do 2 programs this week, to tape them. On Wednesday, he's taping a talk on the help of God's precious infants. And on Friday, he wants to do a tape on We Want to Be Taught. Now, that's the group I want. I want the choir. That particular thing, I want the choir to tell the church from the ground roots all over the world. We want to be taught. Please grant this supplementary catechetical lectionary to the priest, so that systematically, orderly, all over the world, the people of God will learn and go through the catechism 3 times within 1 decade. And then nobody can stop us. Nobody can stop us. It's so very, very important. I've been working on this for many, many years. I've been in contact with Benedict XVI since 2005. He knows all about it. Okay, he knows all about it. And I've gone to Cardinal Christoph Schonborn, the editor of the Catholic Catechism. He knows about it. See? It's a matter of putting it together, and we have done it now. We've done it simple. How to do it? How to do it? You don't put the cart before the horse. You put the horse before the cart. In other words, the Scripture follows the Catechism, not the Catechism the Scripture. You see, it's rather simple. So please keep that in your prayers. Read it. One word. We want to be taught. Sign up. Get it moving. We want it to be done in this year of faith, so that in the year 2014, First Ordinary Sunday, we begin. We have the most powerful. We said the media influence. Media is nothing. The most powerful media, we possess it. It's called the pulpit. And if the pulpit was with the same teachings, the same voice all over the world, nothing could stop us. And if you do it this way, if a priest is not willing to teach the teaching church, well, out, Father. Out. And the bishop will be able to get accountability. He will know. You didn't teach it, Father. For 1 week, you're supposed to be teaching about the contraceptives and human sexuality and everything else, and to give the beautiful teaching and understanding of the church. They never heard it. They never heard it in their lifetime. That's been a problem. Major problem. Even those who go to church. So, and what will happen is that people are coming back to church if they find out we're teaching. They will come back. So, okay, I'll get off. Now, one last story before I leave, okay? Because you have to get home. I got to catch a plane. That's all right. What's the difference? I tell you this last story. I was outside an abortion clinic, and this couple came, and he's a big guy, real big guy. And he says to me, you say one word, Father, your history. I like the classics. What does he mean about history? And he says, that's it. And I did get this into her hand, but she wasn't nice either. They were well matched, okay? They were well matched. And I got it into her hand, but I saw him as he went in, take it from and throw it in the garbage. So they went back in, and once he was in, he figured, well, she's in there. And he comes back out, and he starts smoking. He still wants to make me history, okay? So I'm staying away from this guy. But on the way in, he was in a hurry. He didn't see the pictures we had, the signs, near the prayers. When he came back out to get the smoke, he began to see them. How do I know? He said, body language. You see, if a person's smoking, and suddenly they're holding a cigarette and not drawing, it's just burning down, and nothing's happening. You know in here something's happening. They forgot to get... I usually tell clients, I know this is right or wrong, and tell them timing is everything. I mean, it's not just what you say, it's how you say it, when you say it. When they come back out to have a cigarette, I said, let them draw in, get that narcotic addiction going. You see, otherwise they're going to throw the cigarette away and not listen to you. But if it clicks in, they'll listen to you and have a few extra drags before going back inside. See, so it's a matter of timing. See, so anyway, that's awful. No, you shouldn't do that, I guess. But anyway, but this guy, I noticed that the cigarette is burning down without him drawing on it. Suddenly he began to see the pictures. He saw the signs that were there that he didn't see in the way in. Right? And he saw the people praying. Right? Now, I myself, see, I'm walking back and forth. I'm there all the time, so I'm in no hurry. so I'm going back, and he's like here, and I'm walking this way, and I walk up to him. He thinks we've got to talk to him, but I talk to him. He says, I say one word, I'm history. I'm not talking to this guy. He's a big guy. So I walk by him, and then I walk past, see? And he's looking. I didn't say a word. I do it again. I didn't say a word. And then finally, I come up to him, and I walk away. Right? I walk away. Now, he's looking at this, and, you know, I have all day to do it, but what I'm basically doing is this, you know? You know, the old paper. And after a while, you can't remember why you're there. He's just watching me going back and forth. See? And so finally, I go past him, back and forth. I have plenty of time. So I'll go to him, and I'm not saying he's wondering. And finally, I come back and I say to him, I said, "Did you read this?" And he said to me, he said, "Will you speak louder? I can't hear you." Here's a guy said, you say one word in your history, and he's asking me to speak louder. See? So I said to him, I said, look, did she see this? I know he threw it in the garbage. I said, but when she sees this and she finds out later that there was help available for her, she's going to hate the person who prevented her from seeing this. Did she see this yet? Huh? He takes in his hand, and he has shown the pictures, he's seen it. So I just walk away now. I got plenty of time. Timing. It's not what you say, it's how you say it, when you say it. Besides, what, how, when, all equally important. Gotta have timing. What, when, and how. So I walk away, and I see the guy, and he starts to look at this stuff. I see the cigarette, forget it, it's gone. You see, it's gone. And he's looking at it, and finally, I go over to him, and he's seen what happens to such an abortion. See, they don't know what the child looks like, how they're going to get it out. None of that. All they know is, I want to resolve this problem. Abortion brings back yesterday, get all my life, let's get it over with. And later on they begin to think about what did the child look like? How did they get that child out? Where is my child? All those things kick in, you see? Kick in later. So he finally looks at it, he says, I go and he said, my God, what have I done? What have I done? I said, look, what can I do? I said, well, I'll ask the prayer group to pray for you. I remember, one of the most powerful prayers outside an abortion clinic is the Divine Mercy Chapter. I recently prayed for our time. Mercy. I remember I went to one of the large abortion mills years ago, and I got there, and Emily, who was a pharmacist, who was also a counselor, she comes over to me, she said, Father, she said, that boy in front of the abortion mill there, tell him to go back in and get the girl. He just brought her in. Tell him to go back in. And Emily just got to go, tell her. So I went over and I said to the father, I said, what are you doing here? He looks at me, perfect stranger, what kind of man are you? I said, you're supposed to defend your wife and your children. So what do you get in there and get her out. We'll help her. What kind of man? You got to defend your children. So he looks at me, he went inside. And I came over to the prayer group. It was a good prayer group. And I said, look, I need prayers. I just sent that guy in. You got to get it. So this father, they all dropped to their knees. There's about 60 people. And they started the Divine Mercy Chaplet on their knees. And I'm there standing next to them. Suddenly this guy taps me on the shoulder. I turned around and I said, I told you to get inside and get her. He said, I know. I said, well, go. He said, I did. Here she is. He said, here she is. She's crying. See? So I began to talk to him, and suddenly another couple came out. And I had two couples talking to them at the same time. And a third couple came out. This is God's truth at the same time. And I turned around to the prayer group and I said, slow down, I can't control this. I get somebody out with the Divine Mercy Chaplet. I said, Lord, this is it. Almost inevitably, they come out before I finish the chaplet, see? But at any rate, what happened with this guy, I said to him, look, I'll get the prayer group praying for what's her name? I said, God, stop praying, get on your knees. Okay, start the chaplet, here we go. I said, you got to go inside and pray too, though. It's just us. Here, take these rosaries, go inside. So this big guy wanted to make me history. He's inside the place praying the rosary. Interesting, huh? That's how it goes. See? And so what happened, after an hour, he comes back out. I said, where are you going? He said, wait, I'm thirsty, I'm going to get a drink of water. I said, water? You didn't hear the whole story? He said, what's the whole story? I said, it's prayer and fasting. No water. Get back inside. He said, do I have to? Yes, you do. Get back inside. So, this is God's truth. This big guy, I'll tell you, get back inside. He wanted to make me history. See? Now I'm giving some basic things about health. Anyway, so what happened is, he goes back inside, and doesn't she go into the operating room on the gurney? Okay, downstairs. And she's in the gurney, the operator, and she gets in there, suddenly she gets the grace, I'm not going to do it, I can't do it, can't do it. And she actually, they roll her out, and I just one little digression, in Austria, Vienna, we had a fellow reached a fellow who had sent the woman down, but he convinced them after it. And finally he convinced them after it. He said, my God. And he tried to call her on the phone, that's a cell phone. He called the wrong number. And she was actually in the operating room under anesthesia. Wouldn't have made any difference. She was out. But the phone number with the people praying outside that he called by mistake was the emergency phone in the operating room where the abortionist was. God's truth. The abortionist said, I better answer this is emergency. He picked it up, and the guy said, please, dear, you're right. Keep the child, I'll help you, I'll do everything I can for you, please. And the phone hung up. She hung up on me. What can I do? And the abortionist said, wheel her out. She was under anesthesia. And they wheeled her out into the recovery room. She woke up thinking she had the abortion. He thought she had the abortion. And we baptized that child. So what happened with this young girl, she's in the recovery room. She ended up not doing it. But she was afraid to tell him. Because this big guy, really, she was afraid what he'd do to her. So it's a big waiting room. She comes up out on one side, he's on the other side, and she puts her head down, and she's afraid to say, I kept the child. Right? And he looks at her with her head down and says, my God, what have I done? What have I done? And she makes her way slowly across the waiting room to him, and she has her head down, she says, I can't do it. He said, what? And she said, I can't do it. And this big guy says, oh, thanks be to God. Thanks be to God. And he breaks down crying. Okay, he breaks down crying and embraces her. And the two of them came back out to speak to me, telling me what happened. And I gave them further information, strengthened them. And then they walked down to 3rd Avenue, which is like 16 lanes wide, incredible traffic. Right? And he walks out, oblivious to the oncoming traffic, everything. And he's in the middle of 3rd Avenue with all the traffic. And suddenly he turns around and he holds up the rosary beads and he shouts back to me and he says, Monsignor, prayer and fasting works. That's God's truth. And I think we'll conclude with that. Prayer and fasting works. And I thank you for your presence. I thank you for being here. And whatever we can do for you, okay? There's 2 websites. We have helpuslibrary.info. My email is FR for Father. And it's Help Us of God's Precious Name. It's hgpi@aol.com. So frhgpi@aol.com. And so if we can help you, if you want materials and so forth, and I will, particularly with Tom and Francesca, will be sending the materials you gather up for once in a while, so we can send it as a package, rather than all individuals, you know. And I want to thank in a particular way Tom and Francesca for putting this all together, and those who helped you, okay? Be brave of heart, because all over the world, tomorrow belongs to us. The culture of life, the culture of death is dying, because the truth is coming out. And so many people, they are just wonderful people. And so many people who, you know, Dr. Adashevic, you say 60,000 abortions. Yeah, God's using him, okay? And God's, pray for those who are still in the culture of death, that through your presence, your prayer, they will come and join us in the culture of life and rejoice together with God. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Monsignor. As I mentioned at the session last night, Monsignor's Helpers organization runs entirely on donations. 97% of all the donations go towards helping the women with food, shelter, utilities, whatever they need. And so if you feel so inclined, there's a basket in the back, and we'd be happy to have any donations you can drop in. And just one more thing before you leave. Gretchen wants to tell you, give you some quick thoughts about what's going on relative to the helpers here in Charlotte.
Hi everyone, thank you for coming. And this is just our inaugural event. We wanted to bring Monsignor in to teach us the spirituality of the helpers, which I think we've gotten between last night and today. And we're starting up our local Charlotte Helpers chapter. The website is already up. It's www.charlottehelpers.org. And we're going to have resources on there, any handouts that for anyone that wants to go to the clinic, you can print them out, pregnancy resource sheets, other websites with more information, links to Msgr Reilly's website. And we're also going to have a vigil schedule. So what we're going to be doing is working with our local priests who do go down to the clinics, and we're going to develop a calendar, and we're going to have every month at least one, hopefully two every month, prayer vigils where we have Mass, and then we go with the priest down to the clinic, pray the full rosary, the Divine Mercy Chaplet, and then I don't know if we'll be able to incorporate adoration as part of that. That would be up to the priest. But this is going to be a regular, ongoing event that we will have. So we're going to organize one that's going to start in April. So there's 2 sign-up sheets in the back, one for the Helpers newsletter, and then one for a general Charlotte Pro-Life newsletter that's going to have other information, such as a resource clinic that we're starting up soon, a Catholic Pregnancy Resource Center in our city. So there'll be news coming for that, so stay tuned, because we're going to need lots of help, and we're going to need lots of help organizing local Charlotte Helpers. So please sign up your emails, and we'll send out information. If anybody wants to be involved more intimately, like making rosaries, going down to clinics, maybe leading or organizing, because if we're going to be doing a couple vigils every month, we're going to need a key person in charge of it and all that. So there's a lot of work to be done, but it's doable, because we already have Father Reed that goes down once a month to Hebron. We already have Father Bettner that goes down once a month regularly to Latrobe. So we've already got 2 solid priests, and then we'll bring in some others from there that regularly go down to the clinics. And then you can talk to your own priest about setting up. We'll have a calendar, like maybe the priest at your parish could take August, the next one's September, and we're just going to have regular, this is going to be, Catholics are going to be regular down at the clinics because of this. So please be involved, please sign up, and we will have information forthcoming. Next vigil is next month, to be announced. So check the website, we'll send out email blasts. Okay, thank you so much.